'Twas the night before Journey's End launch. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there. In all seriousness, merry belated Christmas. So much has happened in the past few months, and I'm super hyped to be here and to be working on this video. My plan for today is pretty basic. I'm going to be changing things up a bit though, so there's that. For this build, I'm going to be building my interpretation of a Santa's workshop. I've had this suggested a lot, but in all honesty, I wanted to get this out before Christmas in 2019. Here we are. It was going to be my Christmas special. A lot of things were going on. A lot happened, which there's just a lot going on, and I could have finished the build and gotten it out to you guys, but it would have been rushed, and I really needed to take this break. But so, yeah, here we are. I'll be taking a new approach to this video, editing-wise. I'm hoping to go about my building videos overall quite a bit differently now. I've been kind of following a formula for each of my videos, and I'm gonna still be doing that, likely. You'll probably still see the same editing style, but each video should be far more unique. That's kind of what I'm going for. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. The key change would be the overall flow of the video. I don't plan to go too in-depth on the smaller details, nor do I plan to cover the entire build like I normally would. The videos are going to be far more about the progression of the build, its creation, rather than the build itself, if that makes any sense. There. Also, wanted to chime in and say, what you're seeing in the background right now is kind of just the groundwork for this build. I don't plan to talk too much about this, the trees, the bridge, things like that. That was mostly to build a scene and an environment to build the Santa's workshop in. So I apologize if you'd want to see that, but too bad. My hopes from doing this is to be able to create a much more enjoyable video. And at the same time, I think everyone will get much more out of this. When I started the channel, my goal was basically to impress people. Not to say that everything I did was super impressive or that like, oh, I'm amazing, I'm gonna make this amazing. No. I wanted to create something great, kind of just like a creative outlet. But I've learned a lot of people can get a lot out of these videos. They're somehow inspiring for others. And as a plus, I'm going to get to experiment, have a lot of fun editing, and put a lot more of my personality into these videos. Before I get into the build, I quickly want to catch up with y'all, talk about some plans for the future, and I want to seriously show my gratitude for all of your support lately. I've seriously needed a break like this. Although things have still been really difficult, the massive amount of support I got while I was away was just insane, and I can't thank you guys enough. The channel was doing better than ever while I wasn't even uploading. That means so much to me, the fact that you guys are still watching and could still enjoy these videos. So, welcome to all of you who are new to the channel, and those of you who have subscribed while I was away. Much appreciated. If you don't know me already, I am a weirdo. Okay, if you don't know me already, I do a lot of different variety gaming content, mostly on Twitch. On YouTube, I do a lot of Terraria videos, different playthroughs occasionally. Mostly, I focus on buildings and different creative projects. I've got a ton of videos planned for the future. Currently, I'm working on a couple of very large-scale builds and a smaller modded build. I'm hoping to get that out before 1.4. If any of that sounds exciting, maybe it doesn't. It's got me excited. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss nothing. Yeah. The first thing I started off with is the foundation. It doesn't really matter how you want to do this. I think it would make sense to do an entire sketch out. Even before the foundation, I just kind of go around randomly, and I know a lot of people do. It's not too important, but it seemed like the most doable thing at the time being. Initially, I had sketched out a basement for this build. It was going to be the main part where conveyor belts, toys, that's where everything was going to be made. I didn't end up doing that just because I thought it would be too time intensive and I didn't feel like incorporating it. That's kind of my only big reason. But that's the main reason I have that huge chunk of foundation, which is the normal way I do foundation, and then over to the right, I went with a false foundation. This is something Khaios has talked about quite a bit. I don't use it too often, but I thought of using it this time. This was in December. I'm not entirely sure what my thoughts were at the time being, but I went with this and I tried mixing up snow with the area too and had a bit of fun with that. False foundations are really cool to use. It's basically making it look like they're solid blocks even though they're wall or actuated blocks. That way you can add details, shrubbery and stuff to the bottom of the house and underneath the house and still make it look like it's in the ground. And then what I did to the side, to the left, was basically my go-to layering of different bricks to add kind of a rocky texture to make the house look really well supported. Really well supported. Haha. Something I'd like to suggest that you could keep in mind, it's not like a major thing, but just adding a little bit of elevation to the build can add a lot of detail and really make the build pop. That's what I did to the right of this build. It's just a block higher, but I feel like it really stands out and adds a lot of character for the overall shape and aesthetic. So something to keep in mind, maybe you want to test it out. I feel like it's a pretty cool thing, which I haven't really talked about a lot, but yeah. After I set up the foundation, again, keep in mind, I'm talking about all of this, like I did this build months ago, so I apologize if some of this is just off key. But after I did the foundation, I went on to sketching out the build in-game. I love doing this. There's a couple of ways you can do this, which I wanted to talk about a while ago. One way is the simplest, easiest way, and it's what I normally do. It's taking just wood blocks or some kind of generic block and sketching out the build in-game. Another thing you can do, which I love doing and I've done sometimes, which can be really helpful, is taking wire and using the mechanical lens to sketch out a build. This way, while you're building and while you're detailing, you'll already have an outline that you can follow, which you don't really have to worry about while you're building. But doing this, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about how it looks. I'm not worried about proportions. Is this right? No, it's just getting a sketch out, getting an outline, and then you can work on it from there. So maybe keep that in mind, but it's something I wanted to suggest. So once I was finished that, I started working on tweaking the build, getting a good outline. I made it a bit smaller, changed some of the room sizes, and was trying to go with more dynamics when I was doing this, especially with the different rooms and kind of the overall shape. I wanted to try having a thicker ceiling in the middle. So this was just what I started working on. And this is when I started getting into the different blocks that I was using. I was trying to go with a different style here, and I wanted to step out of my comfort zone and use some things that I wouldn't normally use. Like, normally, if I was doing a brick wall, it would end up as like a medieval theme, even if I wouldn't want it to. Yeah, I'm learning. Anyway, that's where palettes come in. And when you want to get a good style down, that kind of comes down to picking which blocks and textures portray that style the best. In this case, I decided that gray painted or white painted hellstone brick with a mixture of brown painted spooky wood, ebon wood, and regular wood with orange painted rich mahogany wood did a pretty good job as a palette to get the style I was going for. This was very fun working on this build, especially this part, if anything, adding these details. It's new to me. I'm trying to grow and I'm trying to try new things, so experimenting with this was very fun and I really got into it. Lately, with my builds, I'm trying to add more variation to things, and it's something you could keep in mind for yours. Just little details like, if you have a long vertical beam, try adding some horizontal lines to it, or if you have a long horizontal beam, try adding vertical lines to it. It's just something to make it pop, and it just kind of catches the viewer's eye, or your eye, or something, and it's just a fun detail, which it kind of makes a big difference sometimes. Alright, this has got to be one of my favorite parts of this build, which I'm pretty excited to go over. The roof is probably the most unique part of this build, and I'm really happy, I'm really pleased with how it came out. Probably this and the windows. One thing I really wanted to capture was kind of like a completely snow-covered roof. Not like I did last year in my Christmas Village series, where there was just the roof and then there was snow on top. I really wanted it to look like the entire roof was covered. So what I did to do this is I took, I believe, cyan or sky blue painted Dynasty shingles and kind of followed the outline of the roof. So I wasn't making an outline of a roof, but the already existing wood roofing, I just did a rough outline with the Dynasty shingles, and then I removed some and I made it look choppy. After I did that, I brought in cloud blocks, since clouds look really well for snow when you're doing roofs. I haven't tried it too much as like for terrain, but I went and filled out the roof and made a shape of the roof with the cloud blocks. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. And after I did the roof with the snow, I decided to add a couple windows using pixel blocks, which is currently unobtainable in the game unless you have T-Edit or Cheat Sheet. Painted those yellows, created some windows, and after that it was done, and I was really pleased with how this came out. So before we went on to interior design, I really wanted to make candy canes, and that I was experimenting a bit with different candy canes. I didn't like how the candy cane blocks ended up looking, but I almost gave up and just ended up doing trees. I did make some little pine trees, which I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. I think they look pretty nice for the most part. But I decided to go with balloon blocks to make the candy canes, since I felt like they gave a really shiny candy look. Then I alternated with red and white paint. As much as I would love to go over every little detail in this build, I'll probably show you a bit of the process that I'm going on through with interior design, but this video is getting pretty lengthy. I feel like I've gone over quite a bit. All that I have left right now is finishing up the interior design. This took me a while. This is always a difficult thing. I know this is difficult for everyone. It took me a while to figure out like the layout, what I wanted to do exactly. Something that sparked off this build is that big, huge main room with the fireplace. I probably spent the most time with that, maybe like an hour initially, and then ended up tweaking it. I had a lot of fun experimenting with that, like a lot of fun. That's where I tried out a lot of different details and was using some images I found on Google for reference, and these were different illustrations of like a Santa's workshop. I had some fun using the rubber duck wallpaper for trim, and I tried to add a lot of depth into that area. I used T-Edit to actuate some objects later on, and I used a mix of fence, hammered platforms, and painted streamers to make a guardrail, as to make it look like we were on the open side next to a wall that you could go upstairs and get to the second level where you could look down on where we are now, if I explained that right. One other key part of this build is something I did in T-Edit, which I wanted to show you guys, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with this hallway section that connected the living room, basically, and the dining room, to put it simply. And I decided on having a grand window with a Christmas tree, maybe some presents. That was fun. It took me a ridiculous amount of time to get something that I was happy with, but once I did that, fitting the Christmas tree in was kind of difficult since I had a lot of detailed glass there. By the way, if you want to do the detailed glass, a lot of people have asked me that. It's pretty simple. Take the glass, put it over the wall, so glass blocks, hammer it into the design that you want, then actuate it, and then you can paint the wall behind it with either black paint or just a different paint. So that's that, but I still wanted a Christmas tree. This is where I went into T-Edit. T-Edit is really cool, and this is a furniture clipping trick. All you need to do is get the sprite of the Christmas tree, paste it, go up to the top left corner of the Christmas tree, copy that, and then paste that block in the top right corner of where you want the Christmas tree, which is what I did here. This just about finishes up the build and video for today. Thank you guys again for being here. I appreciate it. And again, thank you for the support over this break. I also really appreciate that. You all are amazing. I'd have to say, for this build, I'm really happy how the roof came out. That's probably my favorite part. It was also really fun experimenting with a new palette. I know it's still pretty similar to my style, but I'm trying to switch things up. Baby steps, right? Right? Yeah? I hope you guys liked the video. I know, again, it wasn't really my usual style. I spent a lot of time talking and just kind of rambling, so I hope you don't mind that. Let me know if you enjoyed this video or this style of video. I would really appreciate some feedback because, you know, progress, growth, yeah. Also, the world will be up for download if you guys want to check this out in-game. I'll leave a link to that in the description. I hear you guys, and I'm hoping to put up some older builds for download soon. That'll happen. I don't want to spoil too much, but I've got some plans which I'm looking forward to quite a bit, so keep a lookout for those. As always, thanks for watching, keep building, stay safe, and stay inspired. I'll see you all around. Peace.